I heard a rumor about a government agency that uses children as assassins. Gunslinger Girl was a manga by Yu Aida that followed a group of little girls turned into assassins by the Italian government. It sounds like a silly premise on the surface, but it was a masterfully executed work, filled with as much deep characterization as it did awesome gun battles. Its setting is very unique for Japanese fiction too. A richly detailed Italy plagued by political unrest, terrorism, and the remnants of fascism. Each girl is paired with a handler who they are brainwashed into having undying loyalty towards. These are known as fratello, Italian for sibling, and how the manga handles these relationships is one of its most fascinating aspects. There are handlers who show genuine care and affection towards their girls, those who emotionally distance themselves, and those who use them as a means to an end, as if they were nothing more than tools. There was also an anime adaptation. It's decent, but it's more of a prologue to the manga more than a satisfying experience in its own right. It's all set up without any of the payoff, and the less said about the awful second season the better. Gunslinger Girl is one of my absolute favourite mangas, so you're damn right I was going to hunt down the PS2 game. Or should I say, games. The way they released this was actually kind of cool and unique. As most 13-episode series tend to be, the anime was released on DVD in 3 volumes. Well, there's this version, which includes a volume of the anime and an episode of the video game in one package. It's a really smart way to tie it into the PS2's DVD player, which might sound silly today, but most people only had the PS2 as a DVD player back in the early 2000s. The trilogy tells one story, with each episode being about 2 hours long, making it an example of episodic gaming before Telltale run that into the ground for everyone. It's a pretty basic on-rail shooter for the most part, where cover plays a large role, not too dissimilar to Time Crisis. When out of cover, you need to be mindful of these caution symbols above enemies' heads. Your chances of getting shot are quite high when you see this, so it's best not to get greedy. You're pretty much safe behind cover, unless someone decides to throw a gravity-defying, slow-moving grenade your way. Incredibly easy to shoot out of the air, almost like it was designed to fail. I don't hate these types of games, but they just feel like third-person shooters with less freedom, especially when I'm not shooting at my TV with a light gun. Stupid modern TVs. Though I'm not gonna lie, blowing away dudes with Henrietta's P90 is incredibly satisfying. There is part of my brain that's judging me for liking this though. Gunslinger Girl is an incredibly dark series, and seeing it all video gamey like this is just wrong. The manga had plenty of big action scenes, sure, but they were realistic. They did not involve gunning down hundreds of damaged sponge terrorists in the streets. Good luck keeping that whole child assassin thing secret, guys. You play as Henrietta as she tracks down the rogue fratello of Ernest and Pia, 2 original characters to this game. And that's it. That's the entire story of the 3 episodes. I couldn't follow the cutscenes, of course, but that seems to be what's going on from what I can tell. Okay, slight spoiler alert, but I'm going to be spoiling the entire game over the next 30 seconds, so make sure you skip to the timecode on screen, okay? You chase after Pia, you lose Pia, you chase after Pia dressed as a maid, you chase after Pia in a car park, you shoot down her helicopter, she comes back to life and you chase her through a slightly classier neighbourhood. You chase after Ernest at a train station, you kill Ernest, Pia swears vengeance. Say hello to my little friend! Pia chases after you chase after Pia, you both form a weird alliance against these stupid enemies, only not really because she still continues to shoot at you. You kill Pia, Ernest comes back and swears vengeance, you fight Ernest and he won't die for some reason. Resurrection! You kill Ernest and Pia comes back to life once again and swears vengeance. I took you off the fucking house! Alright, that last part doesn't happen, but would you seriously be surprised if it did? They both die and are never mentioned in any other Gunslinger Girl media ever again. The end. Oh, and the game finally acknowledges that Triella and Rico exist. You play as Henrietta for the entire trilogy and only play as the other girls in Volume 3 as bonus content. Very lazy bonus content, I might add. That's just a model swap of Henrietta's missions. Angelica, Calais and Petra are nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. That's another thing that annoyed me about the anime. Its obsession with Henrietta. Henrietta is not the protagonist of the manga. There isn't one, it's an ensemble. They probably saw her silhouette in the logo and thought, well, it must be about her. The story is incredibly tedious, as you might have gathered from my summary earlier. It repeats so many story beats, and the only thing that changes are the locations. You get some weird, silly enemies as boss fights later on, but it all starts to feel the same after a while. This is something I'm not really able to show, but the stages are incredibly long, sometimes over 40 minutes, and they all feel like they start to repeat themselves. Not only that, they do repeat themselves. You'd think with an on-rail shooter there'd be this constant feeling of moving forward, but no, you actually pass the same locations twice in some missions. They should have just shortened these missions and kept a good quick pace to them. But then again, if they did that, the game would only be about 50 minutes long. There might be a compelling story here, there just might be. But I doubt it. They should have kept the rogue Fratello story to the first volume and given the others to Rico and Triella doing different things. Hey, maybe even throw Petra some love while you're at it. Might be pushing my luck a little with that one. I'm also disappointed with the lack of handlers in this game. Jose has a constant presence over the radio, but you never see him fight alongside you. The handlers are always with the girls, so it's just so bizarre to see Henrietta doing all these missions solo. We do get an appearance from my favourite character in the franchise though. The ever badass Victor Hillshire. If you haven't read the manga, then you simply haven't experienced the awesomeness this man brings to the table. But I digress yet again. Oh come on, with a game this simple, I've got to pad out the review with something. Annoyingly, you can only switch weapons and manual reload behind cover in this game. I do like the variety of weapons you're able to use, even if some of them, such as the shotgun, are kind of useless. Not all weapons are able to use your special targeting ability either. This takes a long time to get used to, and I'm still not sure if it's me not using it right, or it just sucks. Basically, you press the triangle button and your reticule will automatically target someone. It doesn't work all the time though, and you will be hammering on that button to no avail sometimes. I think it might have something to do with the distance your target is away from the enemy, but then again I've seen it work when it was miles away, so who knows. It works when it wants to. It also doesn't follow moving targets either, at least not always, so it just feels like a sloppily implemented feature all around. It uses a part of your SB gauge in the top left there, which can also be used for something called C mode. C mode is basically the kill everything berserk button you'll most likely use when you're pinned down by heavy fire. You jump out of cover and you spray everyone with bullets. You're typically punished for using it during boss fights, however, where smart use of your aim is needed. C mode uses an entire magazine from your gun, but I found a little exploit you can use. If you're low on ammo, you can still use C mode, so you can unload a full mag even if you only have the one bullet left. The boss fights are fairly difficult in this game and require a lot of trial and error. They're the kind that work from an extremely predictable pattern though, so you can go from getting absolutely demolished on your first try to near perfection on your second. The henchmen in this game are just beyond help. They all have just awful accuracy, and they will straight up miss you from about 2 feet away. They need you to stand out in the open for about 10 seconds to get a semi-decent aim on you. Probably one of the more interesting mechanics in this game is when you have to switch from cover to cover depending on where your enemy is. You can see those arrows there telling you where the danger is. But even when they have you flanked, they're still terrible at shooting you. This, in addition to how conspicuous they are, makes me think that they'll have a hard time bringing about that political revolution. In fact, the only thing they do have going for them is numbers, somehow. Henrietta can also do these unnecessary combat rolls here that I think makes you less likely to get shot. There are small details in this game that I did appreciate. Your character limps when they're low on health, and their clothing gets stained with blood. I like the gentle breeze of the wind here too, very fitting with the mood. The voice acting is very nicely done, with the voice actors from the anime reprising their roles. That sweet music by the Delgados does not return, unfortunately. As with most anime-based video games, the music is less interesting and original. It's fitting for the type of game it is, though, I suppose. But come on, know the light before we land? So is this game worth playing if you're a die-hard Gunslinger Girl fan? Not really. Unless the story is just that good and I'm missing out by not understanding Japanese. It's just a silly on-rail shooter really. Only worth having if you're a collector or someone who does reviews of obscure import games. Ayy! So where does this rank on the old import-friendly scale then? As much as I'd like to give out a different rank this episode, it's a 4. Menus are once again in English, Japanese story, simple enough gameplay. This one almost dropped to a 3 because of how long it took me to get used to the controls. And it's pretty difficult getting through the tutorials. But it's a simple rail shooter at the end of the day. Rank 4 it is. We're getting close to Halloween, right? Make sure you stick around the Snickety Slice channel because it's going to get spooky for the rest of October. I'll see you later.